This exhibition is Darwin in Paradise Camp Yuki Kihara as part of our Can the Sea Survivors season. So Yuki is looking at the effect of climate change, in particular in the Pacific, and the threat of rising sea levels and extreme weather events. So Pacific Islanders are amongst the least to contribute to climate change around the world, with the least carbon emissions, and yet they're amongst the most vulnerable to the threats of changes, particularly with rising sea levels. So Yuki Kihara is looking at particularly vulnerable communities, the Fa'afafine and Fatima communities, which means in the manner of a woman or in the manner of a man, that we might understand as transgender, who have a particularly vulnerable place within society because of their gender. So on this panorama wall behind me, we see Samoa after a tsunami in 2009, which completely destroyed whole villages. And the Fa'afafine were amongst the first to respond and to help their fellow Samoans, and yet they felt unsafe using the shelters that had been set up for people's safety. So we are exploring the impact of climate change through the lens of this community. On this wall behind me, we see a series of amazing photographs by Yuki, where she has restaged compositions by Paul Gauguin, the French painter, who famously went to Tahiti and the Marquesas Islands and created a whole body of wonderful paintings based on his experiences. So Yuki has restaged them using her community, the Fa'afafine and Fatima communities, and is really allowing us to see these images through their perspective. Yuki's interested in Paul Gauguin's work because she carried out research into some of his paintings and found archival photographs of Samoa which looked very much like some of Gauguin's compositions. So that suggests that he was actually looking at photographs of Samoa to create his paintings of Tahiti, which goes to show that he was conflating the Pacific Islands as a whole and contributing to the idea that he was kind of stereotyping the people that he saw. Gauguin wrote a semi-fictional book called Noa Noa, which documents his trip to and time in Tahiti and the Marquesas Islands. And so from that we know some of his views, and that he was expecting to find this wild, unruly place. And so he created paintings of his imagination rather than what he actually saw. And he illustrated Noa Noa with 10 woodcut prints, and we've got 4 of them in the exhibition, presenting them alongside reproduction, historical images of Samoa to continue this idea of making these kind of visual relationships. Yuki's made a new body of work for this exhibition which takes this research further, and she's looking at Charles Darwin. So recent research by writers such as Joan Roughgarden and Ross Brooks has shown that Darwin was very much a product of his time, and he may have held back or manipulated some of his findings about species of animals that change sex or have same-sex relationships. Darwin would have said that that's unusual or a kind of freak occurrence, whereas actually it's the norm amongst those species. So Yuki has made this incredible new video work based on this research called Darwin Drag, where she presents herself as Charles Darwin and then presents in drag as Darwin, which allows her to explore this research in a really fun and playful way. Really excitingly, we're also showing this video work alongside some fish specimens from the Natural History Museum, one of which was collected by Darwin himself. So this idea of kind of categorization and museum display methods kind of comes into how we continue to see culture and certain communities. We have a section that Yuki describes as her varchive, which takes the Samoan word var, which means in between. It's a space full of meaning or a space that connects. It's not an empty space, combined with the word archive. So it really looks at Yuki's deep research that she does in the production of her work and presents all the different aspects that have gone into this body of work. For example, there's photographs of a research trip we did to the Natural History Museum in the development of the exhibition. There's images showing historical photographs of Samoa next to and on top of Paul Gauguin's photographs to show the sources that he was likely looking at. There's stamps from the Pacific to show how Paul Gauguin is, widely celebrated and how his work is disseminated. There's a copy of a visitor book from the Auckland Art Gallery with Gauguin's signature showing when he visited there. So all sorts of really deep research that all feeds into this exhibition and this body of work. So it's a really incredibly immersive exhibition with lots of different materials. So Yuki's photographs, sculpture, video work, presentations of her archival research that she's done. So it's really rich and layered, exploring these different aspects of how people in the Pacific have been perceived and continue to be perceived, and how that's tied in with their vulnerable relationship in relation to the risks of climate change and sea level rise.